Traveling the Vortex. Side Trip.
You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house
Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
The stockings were hung by the chimney with care.
in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there at this Traveling the Vortex Christmas special.
Yay! Yes, we decided to put together another Christmas treat for you and record a Christmas special. I don't think we've done this since our first year, have we?
I don't think so. And it was a commentary.
How well that commentary went off. We've done so many more since then.
I'm ready. Bring it on.
And obviously we're releasing this as a side trip, so it gives us another excuse to put a side trip out as well.
Yeah. So
Not that we need excuses to put side trips out. But
we have
let me
the
think.
content.
welcome to our side trip.
And for this side trip, we'd like to step away from the world of Doctor Who for just a moment and talk about Santa Claus.
No, we're going to keep
We're going
Santa
to keep it
in
right
Doctor
in
Who.
Doctor Who because as
Don't tip your hat. Spoilers.
I had discovered most recently that next Christmas,
I gave you my heart.
but
Doesn't work.
the very next day,
Nope.
you gave it away.
Well, it's a Doctor Who podcast. Of course it works.
Next Christmas, obviously, is not the first time that the Doctor
You mean
has
last
in-
Christmas?
Last Christmas. First Christmas. Yeah.
Next
Last
Christmas.
Christmas. Last Christmas has
I gave
not
you
been
my
the
heart.
first time.
The very next
Now it actually
day.
works.
It does work now. Last Christmas is not the
I
very...
gave you my heart. The very next day.
This year's Christmas special is not the first time that the Doctor has encountered Santa Claus. In fact, the Doctor has encountered Santa Claus 4 times prior to this. And we're going to talk a little bit about those stories because we were able to dig up a lot of this material that exists.
Glenn was able
Some
to
of
dig
it-
up a lot
Glenn
of
was
this.
doing
Some of it all the way back to what's been very close to my heart recently, the TV comics. I know
Glenn
you
got
guys are so
behind the
excited
handle
about
of
this.
an almighty snow shovel and went digging for Santa comics, and he found them.
And then I clubbed the wet bandits on the face. There's a Home Alone reference. All right. So,
Let's see how many Christmas specials we can reference in this show.
back in 1965, we talked several weeks ago about TV comics, which Doctor Who featured in its... I believe this is the first non-television material that the Doctor appeared in, and for several weeks leading up to Christmas, they actually did a encompassing Christmas story. And what's the name of the story? I forgot.
I didn't see his name.
I thought it was just called A Christmas Story.
It is. It's called A Christmas Story. You're exactly right, Sean. Thank you very much.
Hey, there's another reference.
In which the Doctor and John and Julian, his grandchildren, which someday we're going to tackle this, but that's neither here nor there now, end up at the North Pole and find out that Santa Claus is having some problems getting toys ready for the good girls and boys all around the world.
And apparently a lot of kids want a TARDIS.
They do. I thought that was such a wonderful,
Meta
self-referential point. And the interesting thing about this is it's not like they were being meta about it. It wasn't like they were self-referencing it so much as they were just saying that the Doctor Who is so popular now that kids obviously want
the toy.
TARDISes.
Yeah.
And so Santa Claus is trying to fill those orders. And somehow we have kind of linked back into the show the fact that the Doctor recognizes that kids want TARDISes. That seems a little strange, but you kind of have to kind of go with it because of what this is.
But it gives him a chance to build this very nice little shrink ray machine and blow him up machine that he can then go make copies of his TARDIS.
I don't think he built it. I think he had it.
He just had it.
Yeah,
I think it was just yet another in a long line of things that he went rummaging around in a bin.
I have something for this. I can't see the first Doctor doing that, but
Oh yeah, he totally was like.
no, that's more of a throw things out. Wait, I've got something. This is more of a second Doctor thing. Okay, wait, I've got something around here somewhere.
well,
Jimmy, come over here and help me. Something.
Not quite as vehemently.
Radiation
No,
gloves.
well, that'd be more like
Like
even a little more
radiation gloves.
vividly would be like Matt Smith going, "No, I've got that something? You know, but anyway,
If Matt Smith was a Muppet, you know that scene when the Muppet and it's just the arms and then things start flying up from behind it? That would have been it.
Yeah, absolutely.
but the first Doctor going to help Santa Claus. Well, he's having a little bit of problem because there is a mischievous villain in this called, I believe it was the Winter Elf, wasn't it? Or the Winter Wizard. Winter Wizard.
He looks like an elf, not a
He
wizard.
does. He's a little tiny.
Although he has a wizard hat.
He looks what I would imagine Jack Frost would look like if Jack Frost hadn't been cemented in some of the Rankin and Bass stuff. But interestingly enough, in this story, Santa Claus is only in the first
Magician
story.
of the Forest.
Magician of the Forest. That's
I
what
had to
it
look
was.
it up.
Even more obscure and weird.
Well, here's an issue. I wish I just closed down my computer. I shouldn't have done that. Matt, my boss, bless his heart, he's trying really, really hard to keep us on this kind of alternative Christmas path at work so that we're not getting quite as burned out by, we're watching that again.
Well, that seems
Nice.
nice.
Some of the big ones.
It's a nice
He's
effort.
trying really hard. So he brought in it was a 4-pack tape or DVD that's got Santa Who with Leslie Nielsen.
nothing to do with Doctor Who.
$2.99. I should point out. That's how much you pay for. Keep that in mind when I give you the rest of these stories. All right.
The whole 4-pack was $2.99.
The whole 4-pack was $2.99. A version of Miracle on 34th Street, which is not either of the versions of Miracle on 34th Street, which I didn't know there was a third one, but there is.
I think it was the old one from.
At least there's a film called Miracle on 34th Street. I haven't watched this one yet.
1930s,
And then
there's
there's one called Santa Claus, and then there's Santa Claus versus the Martians.
That's on
I
Netflix
love
now.
that one. That's a guilty pleasure of mine. Come on.
I plan on watching that this week.
So
I wish I could have gone to our organizer of TopCon organized event where they had a movie viewing of some very old classics and Santa Claus vs. Martians. I think
That's cool.
So we've watched a lot of Santa Claus versus the Martians, and even without sound, it's just like, what? And then Santa Claus. Now, I've never seen this one before in my life, but here's the plot. Are you ready for this? Again, without sound, so take this with a grain of salt. What I've been able to determine is that Santa Claus and Merlin, the wizard, the Merlin, are together at the North Pole, spreading goodwill and cheer.
Well, maybe that's where Santa gets his magic from.
Yeah, why not?
And
That's how we can do it.
Pitch, who, and maybe you know this, choir boy, is like an evil, he's not the devil, but he's a minion of the devil.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who
That sounds
spreads
familiar.
discord and disharmony. And Pitch is out there basically trying to... The story revolves around two sets of parents, apparently, and their children, and one set of parents is rich, and they bestow all kinds of toys on the child, but they don't have time to do anything with the kid. And so all the kid really wants for Christmas is his parents. And the other child of their family is extremely poor, and they bestow nothing upon the child because they're always working, trying to give the child things, but they're never home because of that, and all the child wants is his parents for Christmas. So they kind of have these things. Well, Pitch, being the wonderful Christmas entity that he is, kind of whispers in the kid's ears about you should go be naughty and you should go be evil, you should go do this.
Sounds
And
like Krampus.
he's very much dressed like the devil. He's got horns.
Sounds like Krampus.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of when I heard of this. And it's up to Santa to try and, with the help of Merlin, keep the kids on the straight and narrow path. So I'm reading this comic. This is where it comes back to Doctor Who. And I see the Magician of the Forest. Is that what we just called him?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yes, Magician of the
The
Forest.
Magician of the
Which is odd
Forest.
because I don't see a forest anywhere.
Oh, there's one in the first
Oh yeah, okay,
story
yeah,
before the Wizard of the
and the
Forest
first
shows
panel.
up. Yeah.
The first panel is a tree, and I'm thinking, this is Pitch. This is the evil, entity that is fighting Santa Claus. And I kept waiting for Merlin to show up, and I was a little disappointed that I guess the Doctor is Merlin in this case,
I get you. Well,
which still works.
Speaking of Krampus, Krampus is a German
Yeah.
folklore, and he's often portrayed as an anthropomorphic devil figure, horned devil figure, who he's the one that, if you're bad, Krampus visits you, and he's the one that essentially gives you coal or bad things or does bad things to you, which seems kind of weird. It's one step closer to, it's one thing to say, Santa's going to bring you coal if you're bad, because, oh, darn, I got coal, but, Krampus is going to come, beat you if you're bad. That sounds like a very effective
That was
parenting
the
tool there,
structure of the Supernatural episode of Christmas.
Krampus.
It was Krampus.
So,
It sounds very German.
yeah, no, I see what you're saying, though. We've got this wizard of the forest that, I morphed to
Magician.
magician of the forest. Yeah.
The Magician's Apprentice. Coming right off a
Brady's
Christmas
coming
special.
back.
I really hope we get the giant squirrel then.
Anyway,
Why not? Santa rides a reindeer.
I like the giant
the
squirrel. I
kids
thought it
get
was
to
cute.
ride the giant squirrel. I thought that was kind of clever. And then,
And the doctor's hanging onto the tail.
and what better but the magician of the forest uses a giant, cuddly-looking, happy snowman to capture the kids.
Well, after a big giant wall didn't work.
This is another one of those stories in the same vein as when we review the Quarks. It's one of those ones that I thoroughly enjoy.
It's a
and
fun
it's not
read.
because I enjoy it as a Doctor Who story. I enjoy it for the wonderful piece of nostalgia that it is. And it's not nostalgic to me, but it's a piece of
Yesteryear.
I almost said American. British comic nostalgia of yesteryear, of a different type of storytelling, a different mood, a different tone, a different visual. I love the artwork in these. I always have. I've always liked the artwork of old 50s and 60s comics.
Until they put Tom Baker's head on. Patrick
Well, yeah,
Troughton's
that jaded me a little bit, but it's in that same vein, and the absurdity of the fact that, it's not so absurd now that we've got New Who introducing Santa into the mythos, but having a magician of the forest and a shrink ray that we're going to duplicate TARDISes for all the kids of the world, and ended up using.
Well,
that,
he's going to duplicate the shell.
the shell.
You're gonna,
of
you're-
yeah.
He was very specific to say, they want a model TARDIS.
right,
Okay.
right, exactly. So
That I will allow.
it's cute and clever, and whether you accept it in your continuity or headcanon, it's entirely up to you. It's completely part of my headcanon because I'm going to find a way to work any sort of Doctor Who into canon. But
It'd be really nice if we get some reference in Last Christmas.
that would be, oh man, that would
Remember
be
that time I
that
had
would
to
be
save you from the
pinnacle.
magician
That would
of
be
the forest?
pinnacle. That would be the or Capaldi says, yeah, I remember that one time when I had to battle the magician of the forest for you. I mean, just some dropped line like
Just
that would be
something.
just incredible.
Or what? No giant squirrels or just something. Just anything.
A wall's not going to work this time, Doctor. Well, it didn't work last time.
Come, get on the reindeer. No, I'm not going to get on the reindeer. Oh, you're going to travel by squirrel again? Just let it drop there and maybe that's something that half the audience is going, I know what that is!
Not even
Not
half.
even half.
And everybody else is going,
Eighth of the audience, if
that must have been something that happened off screen. Because we don't
If
get
it
it.
works that way, and people
Sure.
go, "Yeah, it must have been another adventure."
Yeah.
Just didn't
Another
work.
adventure.
It works. I like the last panel of this where it's got "Happy Journey to the TARDIS." Like we're trying to meld some sort of Christmas message here, but it doesn't quite work. Happy Journey to the TARDIS. What?
It's even Happy Journey to TARDIS.
To TARDIS. That's right.
There's no the.
We're going
Because
to the
that's
TARDIS.
that's the big giant firework that he traps the magician of the forest in.
Oh, well,
Fires it off
the
into
message
sky.
wasn't even for them. It was them singing, it should have been Happy Journey to TARDIS. It's from the squirrel.
So that was our first encounter of the Doctor meeting Santa Claus. Our next encounter comes in the form of a short story that was written, and my computer's running super slow here.
It was in A Christmas Treasury, and it was called The Man Who Nearly Killed Christmas.
Nearly in parentheses.
Yeah.
Because he nearly killed
Because, of course, the man who nearly killed Christmas was the Doctor.
the Doctor. Although, as when I went through this story and I read it, one of the things that I did appreciate is the idea that the Doctor, he's really he's meaning to do good here.
He's trying to help
His heart's
Santa
in the right
Claus,
place.
yeah.
Yeah, because he addresses the idea that eventually Earth is going to overrun itself and have to branch out and colonize. And what is Santa going to do when he's been...
And it kind of goes into the details of how Santa does these
Right,
things. Which is kind
exactly.
of neat.
Which apparently Santa has...
Santa's kind of a naughty boy.
Yeah, Santa has sort of manipulated time in such a way that he can achieve the idea of delivering to so many children in one night. And he's using what equates to Time Lord technology.
He's got a wormhole generator and a bunch of clones.
and
Which I didn't quite understand the
Massive
need for
clones.
the clones when you have a wormhole generator, and if you can jump through different times, why have the clones when you could still all do it in conceivably one night with the time travel?
I think the idea is the clones take at least part of the onus off of him as a toy maker. He does still need somebody to make the clones, make the
the
toys.
toys.
And by
That the
mass
clones are
producing
actually
the
his
clones,
elves.
yeah, that in my impression is the elves. And
They're also hanging out at the
there
mall.
are so many kids now that apparently he ran out of elf resources that he had to make clones in order to fill the void there as well. So I do like the idea, though, that the second Doctor decides he's got to step in and tell Santa, it might be time to just kind of put this to bed and not do this anymore because it's
that's
really
gonna
going to
fly.
get so massive that it'll be out of your hands. anyway.
Being the second Doctor, it's not, maybe you think about retiring. No, it's like, you need to stop, right?
That's exactly the impression.
You're
that I
done, man.
You're
You can't go any further
do
from
this
here.
anymore. I also like
And
the
then
way
here,
this,
let me take over for you.
I also like the way this is framed in the sense that you get the impression that the second Doctor is sitting down in front of some class of grade schoolers telling this story as well. So it's kind of set up in the sense that he's telling this story to the kids.
Yeah.
So it's a story about himself. Meeting Santa and telling Santa Claus to stop doing what he's doing, which I thought was kind of funny as well.
Do you think, they didn't say this, my headcanon, of course, this is obviously where it happened. Do you think he's at Coal Hill?
Oh, why not?
yeah, of course.
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Why not?
Because there isn't any other school in London.
No.
Just Coal Hill.
It's just Coal Hill.
Coal Hill School is all there is about it. What you guys think of this story? I mean, I've talked a lot about it.
It was a lot of fun. Kind of the Nightmare Before Christmas aspect to it I appreciated, of the Doctor stepping in and, okay, I can do this, and then getting it wrong.
A little bit of the Santa Claus 2 with the clones and, replacement Santas and trying to do things.
The second Doctor trying to be Santa.
It's the best part of this.
And the dad coming downstairs and seeing this little hobo in his house going, what are you doing
Wait a
with my
minute."
kids?
Would you like some candy?
There's a
In
bit
my
of a
head,
creeper
Jellicle was a
element
jelly
to
baby.
the second Doctor in this story.
Yeah. And this is a telepathic translator. Can I talk to my cat? No, cats are too stupid.
Only works on higher evolved life forms.
It was very enjoyable.
I just wanted to give them something educational.
Of course, the Doctor finds out that what Santa does is a little too much for him and over his head, so he sets things back on its original course. Although they never really explain
How he's going to be able to do it
how
in the
Santa
future.
will eventually be, because the Doctor had some really actually
Well,
justified premise for why he was trying to
Santa
stop it.
kind of tells him, he's like, well, what we can do is you can help me, we'll build robots.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
kind
And
of how they
you can
explain it.
you can perfect my wormhole
That's what it
technology.
was.
And so
That's what it
you
was.
kind of get the impression that the Doctor just kind of went along with it.
Yeah.
Which is
That's right.
where I kind of thought they were going to begin with, was I'm going to help you fix this problem. More so than you need to quit. Initially it was you need to quit, and then I thought it was going to be, well, I can't do that. So he's going to fix it for him. I did not see the, I'll be Santa for you.
Well, that's the weird thing. Is
It's kind of
it-
abrupt.
It almost shifts. It almost shifts a little bit in tone because it's like the Doctor steps in, but then when in the scenario that he steps into of going to be Santa for him, it's almost like okay, you don't really quite know what Santa does because you're bumbling through this whole situation as we're doing this. So
Well, and it was tonally a pretty big shift, too, because we start off with the
doom and gloom.
kitties, and we're doing this. And then we meet Santa, and we walk into the, I don't know, stellar cartography. It's really the only thing that I can picture, that room in the TARDIS that's got all the, Okay, cool. I'm on board with that. It's like eight ceiling. Okay.
He called it like a universitorium or something.
A universitorium.
Yeah.
But and then he shows him this horrible future where, humankind, we go off to all these planets, we colonize all this stuff, and you're stuck here in this polar factory that's nothing but a giant machine belching smoke and making toys, and you've torn the universe a new one with your wormhole generator, and it's just like, oh. Okay, that's kind of dark there. Merry Christmas. And then Santa's like, well, you can help me fix it. Yeah, okay. And then you almost get the sensation that the writer got to that moment and intended the Doctor to fix it up and do that. And then went, oh, yeah, I have a better idea. And he went off on this tangent and then renamed it The Man Who Nearly Ruined Christmas. because that became the nugget of the story, as the Doctor's going down chimneys or, materializing on
At
the
least
roof.
one.
Not working out quite so good there with his outsourcing.
That then mentally is that a word? Is kind of wrapped up in the sense that the kids realize that there's the kid that he's reading to, because now we've stepped back out and we're back in the classroom. The kids that are reading to almost have a, wait a minute, this doesn't really kind of fly, and the teacher has to step in and say, well, if he was clever, he wouldn't have there wouldn't have been a story. So there was a reason for the Doctor's telling the story, because had this been able to wrap up so nicely, there wouldn't have been an issue for them to tell the story in the first place. So I thought that was kind
of fun. And I love that the teacher's assigning a moral to it. Here's the lesson, and all the kids are like, and the Doctor.
That's the nice thing about it, is the fact that the Doctor sits down to tell a story, and when somebody's reading a story to kids or telling a story to kids, you almost expect a moral. But the Doctor thinks never thinks twice about giving them a story. Wait, what? A moral? Oh, yeah, okay. That's what the teacher steps in and is able to do.
And the lesson of the story is that you shouldn't do this without being thought out. And the kid rolls his eyes, and the Doctor rolls his eyes, because they're like, no, that's not the moral of the story. It's a story about Santa Claus. What are you talking about?
Now,
this was called Short Trips, A Christmas Treasury.
Yes.
By the way, is where that one is.
And I believe that was released by Big Finish.
Yes,
I think
it
Big
was.
Finish Publishing put that one out.
And edited by Paul Cornell.
It was indeed. The next one was another Big Finish production, or publication, and was put out in another short story anthology. And the short story anthology was called...
A Visit from St. Nicholas.
No, that's the name of the story. What was the
I'm
anthology?
sorry. Christmas Around the World.
That's
Short
the one.
Trips, Christmas Around the World.
Gotcha. This one actually is cleverly done. Keith, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
I really enjoyed this one.
Did too.
This is probably my favorite of all of them. So, the Doctor and Sarah Jane are at the unit Christmas party and not having very much fun, and they're rather bored.
Well,
I don't know why Benson's Brilliance Coffee is there.
Well, first of all, we're talking about two time travelers that have seen many, many wonderful, amazing things. And Unit, who's essentially, their role is protecting the universe. This is pretty, big time for them.
Yeah.
But this is pretty low key.
They're just kind of ho-hum and bored.
Exactly.
And we keep cutting back and forth to this guy in 1800s trying to write something or other.
Some story.
I can't help but imagine that all of the paper mache, the paper chains and things that they decorated the hall with were all done in shades of army green. It was like green and tan all the way down the thing.
And Sarah Jane is talking about how much she liked Christmas when she was younger and knew all the names of the reindeer and couldn't remember them now. So the Doctor decides to go introduce her to them.
Little Christmas present
And
for
so
Sarah
then
Jane
it's
Smith.
so nicely framed around the famous poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas. And this guy getting the idea for the story, in the end he sits down and writes it.
Who was the guy?
I don't
Clement
remember.
Seymour.
Yes.
The author, obviously, of A Visit from St.
Yeah.
Nicholas.
I knew that when I was reading it, but now I can't remember
Just
it.
the name escaped you.
Yeah. And then they meet up with Santa, and Sarah Jane gets to feed the reindeer. It's just a nice, very clever little story.
I think it was neat because it puts the perspective of this is obviously this event. Just them visiting, even Santa Claus, was kind of the catalyst or the inspiration for story. I keep calling it a play. The story by Clement Seymour of A Visit from St. Nicholas. And this story does a nice job of telling its own version of the actual events for A Visit from St. Nicholas. And I like this one because a lot of this is from, with the exception of the setup, a lot of this is from Moore's perspective and him trying to come up with some story because he's got to turn something into his publisher and not knowing what to do and up late because, he can't sleep. It's Christmas Eve. And
it was so clever how they wrote it without going line for line for the poem, but showing the events and explaining the events and almost giving you the line where you guys know exactly what's happening without them just reciting the poem to you. So well written.
Putting a real-world perspective
Yes.
on something that is still fantastical and still in the realm of fantasy and Doctor Who. I thought that was really kind of neat, too. Because it grounds it a bit.
Yeah, it
grounds
really
the story
does.
a bit.
Not that the story really needed any
It
grounding,
didn't.
but
No,
it was just such a unique approach to the idea that I'd never seen done before.
And, of course, this story ends with Sarah getting to meet Santa Claus because the third Doctor happens to know Santa Claus because,
good
now
old
we
chaps.
know he has encountered Santa Claus twice before in subsequently previous regenerations or generations.
Now, I have a story to kind of build off of this one. I misread my syllabus
You read the wrong story.
and read
didn't
the
you,
wrong
Sean?
story.
Oh.
And it wasn't until it ended that I went, why would he put that one on the schedule?
Saint Nick
That's
wasn't on that.
kind of a cheat. And then went back and checked and realized, oh, I goofed. So I went back and read this story.
Okay, so you have read this.
So I have
Okay,
read
good.
it, which I did not enjoy nearly as much as the one that I
What
accidentally
did you read
read.
that we should maybe read?
You should
maybe
totally
we'll put this on the schedule for next Christmas.
You should totally read back in the first anthology, the Short Trips of Christmas Treasury. There is one called Unit Christmas Parties, Christmas Truce by Terrence Dix.
Oh, fun. Okay.
And I'm gonna spoil just a little bit of it. That there is a dignitary who's visiting from Geneva, naturally, of course, and
Well, of course.
that we have to suddenly cancel all of your Christmas Eve plans, and we're going to throw together a party. And Benton, I need you to go to the airport to pick him up. And Yates, you're in charge of decorations and making the place look festive. And Joe, who's the companion of this one, is going to be hostess. And Doctor, he's very keen to meet you. And then I was like, I don't have anything to do with this. I'm busy. I'm working. No. And the Brigadier threatens
Very
him with,
third Doctor.
threatens him with court martial. And he's like, I'm not working for, I'm only loosely
I'm an
affiliated. You
advisor.
can't do that.
I don't work for you.
And he says, well, we'll see if you like treason. And, he's very Grinch-like, the Brigadier in this one. So Benton asks, he says, well, how will I know this guy? And the Brig tells him. And he says, well, apparently he bears a fairly striking resemblance to Santa Claus.
Oh.
So that's where I thought you were going with this. Yeah. So he goes and picks up Santa and brings him back, and they have this, he's this wonderful, charming man, and everybody falls in love with him. Even the Brig is like, this guy is wonderful, and he's a scientist, which is kind of weird. And they finally pry the Doctor out of the laboratory to come meet him, and the guy's like, oh, Doctor, I've heard so much about you, and blah, 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 blah. And the Doctor's like, what's up? I don't. And they gave him a tour of the building and the whole bit. So he says, well, might I have a word with you in private? So they go out to the balcony, and the Doctor says, so when are you going to end this charade? And Santa pulls the beard off, and it's the Master. I'm going to leave it there for you.
Oh, okay. Well, I may be going back to read that one now.
It was just like, this is awesome. This is great. Why did he assign this? I don't get it. Because this is not
Santa. He's meeting the Master.
This is not really Santa Claus. So.
Well, but see, clearly he knows who Santa really is. That's why he immediately saw
He
it.
immediately saw through it.
Now, the last one I suspected Keith would enjoy the most.
Actually, it was fun, but I enjoyed the third one the best.
Oh, okay. Well, that's another
I
one
think
of your
I think I would have enjoyed Silent Night with a K. A bit more. It was kind of abrupt and strange. The fact that there's no dialogue in the entire thing until the very
I
end.
like that.
It took me a little bit to get used to it. It's kind of neat.
It was neat. It was a neat approach. This is an
IDW comic.
IDW
Issue number 12 for the 11th Doctor range.
Which would have been
December.
Yeah,
assuming they started.
I think they did. It's written by Tony Lee,
This is how
who I have yet to get on the show. I can't call him friend of the show, Tony Lee.
This is how the Doctor should help Santa when he decides to help Santa. Basically, it's really Santa gets attacked by robots. I'm not sure why, but he gets attacked by. Maybe it's the robots that he helped develop for Santa.
Maybe
when
they
he was
went
the
wrong.
second Doctor, and something happened, and so the 11th Doctor decides, well, I better help him out here. But anyway,
because they kidnap it, they take his presents and take his sleigh, and they're all gone.
I think it would have been better which I love how the sleigh no longer needs reindeer, but
No, it's a different sleigh.
oh, it's their sleigh.
Oh,
You're right.
Their
because-
hovercraft
Yeah, you're
looks
right.
like
Yeah,
a sleigh.
well, they're stealing Christmas.
Because they're dressed up like
I think what would have
Santa.
made this
Dressed
even
like
better
Santa.
is if the robots had been green and they had been called Grinch bots. They're stealing Christmas.
We didn't get a name for him. So.
Oh, that's right, because then the 11th Doctor is actually driving the reindeer in Santa's sleigh in one of
Yes.
the frames. That's
Yeah.
correct. But this is kind of a cute, quaint little story, because after they thwart the robots, they realize that, we still have some, deliveries to make. So
And the Doctor burns out his Sonic in the process.
does,
He
yeah.
zaps the robot so many times that the Sonic fritzes out on him.
And they've crashed, and so the poor reindeer are injured. So, TARDIS to the rescue.
And then they're looking at their naughty and nice lists, which I assume all these people.
It must be. Well, you saw
Barnaby
Barnaby
name I
Edwards is on the
recognize.
list. The naughty list is Jeff Thompson, Steve Lyons. We know Steve
Sean,
Lyons.
Sean Lyons.
yeah.
Sean, I'm sorry, not you. Sean Lyons. Rick Marshall, Barnaby Edwards, which obviously were for some Jags. Aaron Aronson. Some familiar names on there as well. Jamie Dodgers.
And he stole the Jamie
takes what
Dodger.
it's still in Sammy. One of the Jamie Dodgers that's been left for Santa. I kind of like this
I
one
like how
because
they paddle around later and just go to the beach.
well, I think it's still them making deliveries, and what I liked about this is they're walking into this like shanty,
Yeah.
and obviously very very poor neighborhood here where somebody's living in a shanty. They go to this must be the North Pole because that's where the Eskimos live. Igloo. Yeah, there's obviously they're at the Santa's enjoying a dip in the water
advantage
as
of the
they-
warmth while they can.
as they deliver to a little hut on the beach.
It's my brother's house.
I liked the Roy and Amy mention. He drops a present
the
off for them.
marking off Pond and Williams.
Yeah, that was neat.
Nice.
He
That was
strikes
a really
through.
nice touch.
That was a present for Rory, I think. By striking through Pond and then a homeless man sleeping in the alleyway, which was really neat and touching. And it's a quaint little Christmas story. And of course,
the robots
the robots show back up. I
And
like
they
that he
have
gave the
presents.
lottery numbers to the homeless
Yeah,
guy
that was
too.
nice, too.
That was neat. And then like giving how do you thwart bad robots? Well, you give them their Christmas presents, and then they're no longer bad because they're excited because now they can dress up like pirates.
Now they can.
I don't know why he gave them pirate outfits.
Why
but,
not?
Oh well.
I think that was part of the allure that these robots, whatever their thing was, because they had the Santa outfits and they had the hovercraft that looked kind of Santa sleigh like.
They needed a purpose.
They needed the bag so that they could go play Santa. And so Santa gave them pirate outfits because,
So now-
you're pirates, so you should
Play what you know.
you should go do that.
I hadn't thought of it that way, Sean. That's very cool.
That's what I got out of it. That's like,
Anyway, the palling around, I think, comes around later because I like the idea that they're just kind of, they're back at the North Pole, obviously. He's dropped Santa off, and they're just kind of sitting there enjoying a nice sunrise because they've had a full night, and then Santa gives him his gift. And
the
As
last
Keith-
present in the bag.
as Keith pointed out, he had burnt his Sonic out before, so...
Sean mentioned that, but yes.
Oh, yeah, Sean mentioned that. So, who you're Sean, you're Keith.
Last time I checked.
Yeah,
And then-
exactly.
And then the 11th Doctor pulls the first Doctor.
Which is wonderful because the line that the only as Keith had alluded to, the only line in this dialogue wise is incidentally a happy Christmas to all of you at home, and it's a breaking the fourth wall reference to the reader, and it's the very same thing that the first Doctor did right in the middle of the Dalek master plan, where he breaks the fourth wall and addresses the camera and wishes the same thing.
But you know what the most awesome part of this comic is?
What's that?
It's this panel, this first page, where the TARDIS lands, and he comes running out with
With a
his
shovel
and his bucket and his
Pants are
pants
rolled
are
up.
all
He's
rolled
landed
up,
on the beach.
and then he runs back inside and comes out with a winter coat on, and he's disgusted. Just
Oops.
And you know, this panel actually explains the winter where the big green coat comes from.
it does.
It's because
Oh, it
it's the
certainly
big green
does.
coat, and
It is the big green
he just
coat.
shows up in season 6.
You're right.
and we know no reason why. This is why
It's because he had visited the North Pole.
Santa.
Oh, my God.
That is so cool.
It is cool. I
Just a
didn't even
little
catch on
look
to
on
that.
little cartoon Matt's face. He's so happy, and then it's such a second Doctor moment
It
with
is.
him on the
It
beach
is.
and
Yeah.
Enemy of the World.
But it works out. I mean, he gets a wonderful moment with Santa.
A lot of
Gets
fun.
to visit
And
Santa.
eventually go to a beach.
So the question is,
And then
why,
you eventually
why
quit.
did it take from the 3rd Doctor to the 11th Doctor? Why did we get such a gap where we didn't get any visits from Santa Claus in between there?
I don't know.
Maybe the Doctor was naughty.
Well, he was a bit mischievous once his fourth generation came around. So 4th incarnation came around. Anyway, we thought we'd give you this little Christmas treat and review some past visits and let our listeners know that come Christmas night when we finally get to see Last Christmas.
I gave you my heart the very next day. You gave it away.
That this will not have been the first time that the Doctor had an adventure with Santa.
We've met him before.
And I so hope now that there's at least a reference that he knows Santa
Something
based
there.
on all this.
Nor is it the last time he meets Santa.
Okay.
Yes.
Doctor Who reincarnated.
Oh, right,
Oh,
right.
yes,
Yes,
yes, yeah, that's
absolutely.
right.
A little nod to Alex and Mark.
Yeah.
When are you guys putting the next one up? I know. Busy. I know the feeling.
Is that going to do it for this Christmas?
I think so.
I believe so.
Santa and the Doctor are like peas and carrots.
I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight.
Merry Christmas to all.
And to all, good night, everybody.
And a happy new year.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry